Hail, men and women of faith! O children of immortal light, I am come this day in memory of the hour when, born out of the concept of his love, the creation came forth, manifesting his perfection. You were there then. You beheld his glory. You were witnesses of his greatness, of his all-powerful thought, of his all-powerful being, of the seed of faith which he planted as a germ of immortality in life itself. For life could not produce that which is not life. Life could not produce doubt. Life is only able to produce life and faith and immortality. Mortality is the limiting stop in man's consciousness that calls a halt to an episode. It has no power to dam the eternal flow, nor has it any power to stop the mounting crescendo of faith which shall sweep the world and bring to mankind that day of summoning, when they shall be summoned to the courts of faith, to call for an amplification, to call for an intensification of that quality which will enable them for themselves to draw aside the veil, that they may peer behind that veil and see for themselves how the thought of creation did act. The words, "What God hath wrought," should be emblazoned upon man's heart. Man should understand that there is a difference in the creation of mortal thought and feeling and the thought of the Divine One. You see the sparkle of the sun upon the dewdrop as it rests gently upon a blade of grass, the iridescence of that dewdrop, its expansion of the water element together with the air, with Atmos, holy Atmos, is indeed a manifestation of cosmic iridescence. God needs not a vast universe in which to manifest. Time and space are his to expand or contract. God needs not all of the cosmos to speak the word and tone of his love. God manifests in the finite seeming, the small, the little, and the tiny microcosmic world, as well as the great, large, expansive realm of space. Men are oft deceived because they think that the deity is absent from the small meeting. They think the deity is absent from the little person of little renown. They know not that that which God hath wrought dwells within the tabernacle of each individual's being, and must be so recognized by that one that he shall no longer be limited by those mortal concepts which cause him to dwell in an ego-appointed set of circumstances which govern his world with a hampering, restraining shroud. I say, remove that shroud, lift that pall, see the clear dawning light of the first cause within thyself. See the crystal clear image of God within thy being, and not in the being of another alone. For men are often able to witness to the virtues of one another and to the vices, but seldom able to fully appreciate, as God intended them to do, the wonders that have been wrought within the domain of themselves. And because they feel so small and insignificant in the eyes of God and in the eyes of man, they feel compelled to seek some form of approbation within the outer domain, not knowing that the Most High God has vested them with the pearl of great price, that He has vested them in the iridescence of being with that faith which spans not only the small finite borders of their present manifestation, but spans universal love in all of its glory. And that love is not impotent, but it is dominant. That love is not weakness, but it is strength. That love is not finite, but it is infinite. And that love is a tangible pulsation this morning in this place, in this atmosphere, and in the hearts of those who are auditors of our word that goes forth, not to reinforce elements of decay in mortal consciousness and conception, but to expand the virtue of God, that great shepherd of souls, as He tenderly guides each of the lambs of His passing thought to their immortal destiny and to a haven of safety beyond the briars and thorns upon the pathway of life. Well would it be if you contemplated now the moment of cosmic conception. Well would it be if you contemplated the power of faith that framed the worlds. Well would it be if you concentrated upon that moment and forgot all others. That which has intruded, that which has come after, that which has created despair and frustration and fear and doubt, and has caused in the world of form and mortality such distress, ought not to be at all. In its place, the pristine moment of conception ought to come forth and spring forth as from the fire of Jove, as from the fire of God, as from the fire of Prometheus unbound. The sacred Word that in the beginning was, the Word garbed in flesh that has appeared in countless avatars, the Word that descended to the earth to cleave asunder the rock and to split by vital power all that is human from that which is divine, that men, seeing and perceiving with clarity the distinction and difference thereof, might cleave to God and forsake that which is not good, that which is not right, that which is in effect evil, to hinder the expansion of the dimensions of being in their realization. Come now then, let us reason together, saith the Lord. Though your sins be as scarlet, I will make them white as wool. And by the power of the faith which Almighty God has vested in His creation, I, Michael, by the power of the Son, declare that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. I declare that God rules. I declare that God is the Supreme One, the fount of identity that radiates and pulsates in your beating hearts. There is no other power but God, and to this faith you ought to return. This is the faith you ought to affirm, and this is the light that burns within your heart and brings you into holy remembrance as you walk upon the wayside of His immortal presence. And yet, how frequently men do dally along the way, how frequently do they consult with one another in the smallness of their ways, without beholding the infinite love of this Good Shepherd, the infinite love that takes all by the hand and leads them toward the promised land. Precious ones, I thank you for your tribute to the light. I thank you for your affirmation of faith. Won't you please be seated? As Moses led the children of Israel toward the promised land and across the deserts of Sinai, as Moses held the tablets of the law in his hand and did break them in dismay, as Moses did honor God and rejoice in the ark of his eternal covenant, so do I, Michael, this day rejoice in the first cause of freedom. Your freedom did not begin today. Your freedom commenced with the first moment of your issuing forth from the very loins of the Most High God. You are seed of his seed. You are flaming children of the infinite. Cosmic nebulae and dust commingle in your consciousness, and you are indeed children and products of the Word that has gone forth into the void. You are children of the sun and dawn, and yet you slumber and sleep. You slumber and sleep. You slumber and sleep. I say, awake in God's name, and be free by that power of the first cause. I say, reaffirm your faith. I say, strengthen the covenant of being within yourself. I say, forsake all idols and recognize that I am is in truth being and life within your own consciousness, within your own physical frail fabric, within your own immortal heart fires, and within the microcosmic universal creation as well. If then, this hour, precious ones, you could expand your concept of faith beyond yourself to reach out into the universe of form, so that you would not limit yourself in dimension, you would be able to feel the vast movement and turning of the heavenly bodies within the domain of yourself. You would be able to understand the meaning of being God. You would understand the meaning of reality. When God conferred upon man the gift of his own image, it was a spiritual gift. God is a spirit, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. He is reality, and that which men think and feel is so often unreality that we could almost safely say of all that men say it is unreal. Yet faith has been affirmed in their lives in part, and there is a start made, precious ones, in the soul evolution of mankind. It is small, it seems puny, its cry is weak, but we have heard it, and God has seen it, and the Most High has established and reestablished again and again his covenant because of it. Because if there were no fruit in manifestation, I assure you that the great potter of the molding wheel would long ago have returned the plastic substance to the earth from whence it came, and the idea that did not bear fruit would, like the accursed branch, saying, in the words of the Master, henceforth let no man bear fruit of thee, have long ago been fulfilled, and all should have been returned by the power of the sacred fire to that first primeval beginning. But because there is an element of hope, a nourishment of faith in manifestation, we continue from higher octaves to serve mankind's spiritual needs knowing that they will try valiantly to take care of their own outer needs. Yet, precious ones, Mother Nature has continued to serve mankind in manifestation as the four elements of being, and your own blessed Virgo, Mother Earth, continues to provide food and seed and harvest time. All is fulfilled by the cycles of life and the great laws which are constantly parading themselves before the screen of your mind. Now comes the power of your heart. Now comes the spiritual power that has created outer dimension as a stage on which to play the great drama of life. That realization could be born in all hearts by a recreation of cosmic drama which has only been played in part. For between the acts the clowns and fools have created their episodes of juggling, and they have even dropped the apples and the balls and cast them before mankind as an inept example of their own lack of comprehension of universal law and substance. Our faith is not in juggling or in human manipulation of life and life's energies. Our faith is in the great Creator cause, the first cause of the law that has given man a foundation that is laid, which is the Christos, the light of God that never fails, the first foundation stone upon which universal concepts have been laid. And I think that there is no other stone that has been laid that ever will be a chief cornerstone in this temple of universal beauty and life. Only God and only Christ, the Christos, the light unfailing, the divine ideation. Let us make man in our image and after our likeness, shall endure and produce perfection. All else, the intellect and the tools of mortal reason, shall come to serve the great Christ cause, as the 12, the holy 12, did serve your own beloved ascended Master Jesus in his beautiful Palestinian embodiment. Engrave then upon your hearts today the law of the first cause, and know that I, Michael, prince of the archangels, affirm with the great trumpeting in the heavens that the law of the Lord goeth forth in this age in a new cosmic dimension, that mortal thoughts and feelings have no power to stay our hand, that mortal concepts of our messenger have no power to stay our hand, that mortal concepts governing this activity have no power to stay their hand. Precious ones, this activity shall go forth as you affirm it, as we affirm it, as God affirms it, and there is no power that can stay the hand of life as it moves in the great resistless tides of cosmic law out into the realm of human reason and thought and feeling to take command and control. For mankind, with all of their power and power complexes, with all of their madness and with all of their greed, have never been able to fence in Almighty God. He has overpowered them always, and he always will. The psychic energies of the world have thought to survive by mastering methodologies of control in the psychic realms, and they have wrought nefariously against mankind. But by our sword of blue flame and the great transcendent love for the first cause, by the holy law of faith, we have vanquished them to the right, we have vanquished them to the left, we have vanquished them above, and we have vanquished them below. We shall vanquish them wherever they go and wherever they are, and they shall never, never, never in all eternity be able to alter our plan. It is founded and rooted on the divine man-child, and this child shall rule the universe as a rod of iron. He shall dash in pieces human concepts as a potter's vessel is dashed in pieces, and the very powers of the heavens shall be shaken, and the earth beneath shall tremble, and it shall come to pass that mankind shall rejoice together in that which at one time they did weep and have and hold to be a sorrowful thing. For mankind shall understand that in the losing of themselves in the great cosmic drama, they are coming to life. They are coming alive indeed, and not to fulfill some human purpose, but to fulfill the purpose of the first cause, to fulfill that wondrous drama adventure that sets out not without chart and compass across the eternal sea, but follows the great plea of the ancient mariner of that life which is to be the fullness of fixation upon the God-appointed dominion of the eternal realm. This realm is reality. That which passeth away is the former unreality of man, as he sought to mirror the divine image, but saw it in the warped mirror of mortal conception. Now comes clarity, now comes reality, now comes vision, and the people shall not perish. We say to you today, sense the first cause, the great law behind all. See that though man lives but for a day or for 1,000 years, unless he lives in the foreverness of God, he has not even been, for only that which is, that which was, and that which shall be, that which is forever shall exist. All else is indeed the number of a manifestation, the number according to the patterns of the tetrahedron, and according to other patterns which have been created. A golden mean for a purpose, but a mortal purpose in many cases. Now we come to a golden mean for a cosmic purpose, and we come to a manifestation worthy of perpetuity. We come to a meaning which is divine, interpreted by the divine sense in man, not an attempt by mortal sense to interpret the infinite, which can never be. And thus those mortals who have sought by the power of the human intellect to define God have come up against a wall of their own concrete abstractity. You see, precious ones, this is a case of the irresistible force of human intellect coming up against the immovable object of human reason, and there is no give one way or the other, and therefore individuals must of necessity say in their heart, we doubt the existence of reality. For how can they do otherwise, precious ones, seeing they have not the real sense themselves, and do not understand how that their being came forth for a cosmic purpose, not for a mere human purpose of fulfilling in human concepts a greedy raison d'etre. You see, precious ones, man must understand the law. Man must understand the law. Man must understand the law by becoming the law in action, not by attempting, as men do in mortal ways, to first of all perceive that which is outside themselves and then decide whether or not they will enter into it. In the realm of the cosmic dimensions, where you deal with the great omnipresent realities of life, you cannot decide whether or not you are going to be a part of that which you already are. Precious ones, this is utterly ridiculous for mankind to affirm that they will decide whether or not they are going to be a part of reality. I think, precious ones, it is time that we understand a bit of divine satire, that we understand that the divine shall mock mankind, and the Lord shall hold them in derision. The Lord shall laugh, and he shall see that they have come to naught. For the zero of creation is their own misunderstanding, which cancels out their own existence. And therefore they are not any more, but the Lord remaineth forever, and his plan abideth forever. And he has ascended into the heavens, and he has descended into the deep, and he has opened up the great flame founts in the heavens, and he has opened up the great fires of the deep, and that fire which is above in the heart of the earth, and that fire which is above in the heavens has reunited, and that which is below is above. And then we shall perceive that God is in manifestation. and man is indeed in Godification. This is the true reality. God is becoming manifestation, and man is becoming God. This is the purposes of union. Each hour, each day, man moves closer to deity. Ask yourself this question. Is it so today? Or do they move further and further away from cosmic purposes into the littleness of themselves and to the extinction of the only thing that is real within them, the God essence, the God flame, the God power of immortal victory? I think that I know, for I am Michael. I think that I know, for I am. I think that I feel, for I know the great power of the Elohim. I think that you also, as you meditate upon it, as you hold its principles firmly entrenched in heart and being, shall feel my fervor for the first cause, shall assert your own approval of God's laws, shall recognize the strength that comes from on high, that is not straws, but is the golden rule to measure the law of God, and be not the human fool that deceives and deceit practices upon others, and shall one day find that they are indeed all his brothers. Precious ones, hold now then our law's delight, the faith of God that makes things right, and see the beauty over all, the beauty of life for which we call, descending from on high to earth, to give to all that grace and worth that is life beating your hearts, that is life firing man's hearth, that is life cherished as a spark in the dark of human dimensions, passing away into God intent, into God defense, into God virtue, into God realization, into God. I thank you, and I bid you good morning. Gracious ones, I am God in action. And as I come to you today, it is to reveal the wondrous thought in the idea of immigration. I am gratitude in action. Behold, then, how that America was intended to be a land where gratitude in action would produce, through the power of the cosmic liberty bell, that wondrous attitude of freedom which would make men responsive to God within the citadel of their hearts. For the flame of God is the flame of life, and it is to this freedom that men truly are born, and all men have in a very real sense immigrated to the very heart and threshold of immortal opportunity. For immortal opportunity is born as a great golden door before the gaze of all, when they first draw forth from the heart of God the tender knowing of their own identity, when they come to a point where they recognize their own reality, when they apprehend the sacred truth embodying the name of God, I am. They recognize by uttering these words the reality of their being. Yet with what a cloud of unknowing men veil themselves from the great sun that seeks to break through the clouds that surround creation and bring to all recognition of possibility. Possibility, precious ones, is before you ever and anon. Possibility surrounds you. Some among mankind see it not, and they feel enclosed about and cloistered in consciousness. It is true that you cannot sometimes, I know, help feeling pangs of sorrow for them, and regret that they themselves maintain and manifest such brutality of consciousness, whereby through intellectual perceptions they seek to actually cast themselves out of existence. For through the power of human reason, men have actually decided that they did not exist in reality. And this concept was easy for them, for they decided that seeing one day they would no longer be, and seeing that that hour was fast approaching, that for all practical purposes they were not, and it was as a wink of an eye. And it was so. Well, precious ones, they will one day, in the great vastness of eternal life, come to wake up and recognize the fallacy in their thought. It is most unfortunate that men and women do not wake up early enough to permit their perceptions to galvanize them into action. Immigration, precious ones, from the heart of God to the planet Earth is an opportunity. And immigration back to the heart of God is an opportunity. Individuals must recognize then the boon of gratitude. I am gratitude in action. And therefore the goings out and the comings in of mankind ought to always be a manifestation of gratitude to the deity. You know, precious ones, in all of mankind's intellectual perceptions, they have never been able to recognize the power of gratitude. And they do not understand what it is that gives to individuals who exercise the power of gratitude the power to be different and to have a feeling of buoyancy that manifests and exercises some mighty form of control. even influence over the lives of others. Well, let me tell you, precious ones, that the expansive feeling of God gratitude is a power that works wonders in the physical body of man as well as in the mind. It removes the blindfold even from justice, which mankind have unfortunately misconceived, and it causes individuals to feel the reality of cosmic justice. For men realize in gratitude to God that they cannot be grateful to a manifestation of injustice, but only to a manifestation of cosmic omnipresent justice. Justice then is everywhere together with the quality of mercy, and it is only the unthinking and the unseeing who can deny the existence of these two divine qualities synonymous with liberty, freedom, and other wonderful manifestations of the very fires of God's heart. God's heart, precious ones, is the creative realm from which emanate into the world of form the powers that make life beautiful and worth living. Therefore, gratitude for all opportunity ought to be exercised by all who have the pulsating flame of life expanding within the domain of their being. Now, as I am speaking to you, I am mindful of the fact that somewhere at this moment upon the earth planet, individuals are coming in to physical embodiment, and other places upon the planet, individuals are going out. In some cases, precious ones, the same event transpires neath the same roof. Needless to say, then, the great changing scenes of life are those which affect all, and men, by reason of the brevity of their life, find sometimes shortened perceptions. They cannot comprehend that which is beyond the span of their individual identity, sensing only historical modes from the past, from the recorded word. Yet the great records of Akasha, the spiritual records which men make as their life energies are utilized, are in themselves records of pure truth insofar as the just recordings go. They are replicas of that which transpires, but they are not always pure truth, because mankind do not always manifest the purity of truth in the records which they make. Therefore, I trust that you will be able to discern in the engravings of human history the imperfections of life which ought not to be duplicated, that is, the same mistake made twice and again, repetitiously and unfortunately. In the case of mortal conflict and warfare, in the case of mortal anger and despair, you have a continual manufacture of brutal images by mankind, perpetuated through the ages without so much as ever bringing forth one graceful architectural benefaction to mankind. There are those who say that following war there is a great period of reconstruction, and this is profitable to the world, intimating that warfare is a profitable act. Let me call to your attention, precious ones, it is no small wonder that mankind find the need to construct after all of the destruction which they wrought upon one another and upon civilization. But I ask you, precious ones, can you honestly say that they can restore the broken homes, the shattered lives, the shattered bones, the traumatic experiences, and the human discord which is spewed out as a downward spiral upon mankind in times of war, when the profit motive behind every war rises higher and higher in manifestation to the very heart of the lords of karma, and shows forth that it is human greed in every instance that is behind the warfare of mankind. Manipulation it is, and the manipulation of individuals who are unable to help themselves and to overcome the avalanche of human nonsense and depravity which is unleashed upon them through the power of armed conflict. Do you think, precious ones, that in most cases the youth of the world go forth to do battle with one another with a feeling of joy, a feeling of hope, a feeling that they are in some way contributing to the welfare of their domain? I tell you, nay, for there is trembling, and there is despair, and there is fear, and there is confusion, and there is destruction that functions within their brain and heart and feeling world. They are cast adrift then from the strings of their own earthly mother. They are cut loose and thrown upon a cruel battlefield where conflict and death and decay are much in evidence from day after day, whereas they long and hunger for a spiritual release, in many cases actually entering into battle with a sort of feeling, precious ones, that is somewhat fatalistic, where they say to one another, well, if my time is here, then today I shall go, but if my number is not up, I shall remain, and with a shrug of their shoulders they go forth to do their master's bidding. I call to your attention, O mankind of earth, that this is a continuous action. For the world now, for a long period, has practically always had some portion of the globe that has been victimized by the horrors and ravages of war, and the munition makers have continued to profit by the making of their munitions, and the politicians have continued to accept the pressures of the munition makers, which are very great indeed. But in this day and age, when the powers of light and light's rising tide are coming into greater and greater evidence, we find it necessary to continually alert the chelas of the light to this nefarious action of the hosts of darkness, so that the spine and back of the munition industry may be broken by the spiritual power of light upon this planet as it floods forth into the consciousness of mankind as awareness as to what in truth is actually acting. You see, precious ones, you know already that it is not God that is acting. You know already that it is not Christ that is acting. You know already that it is not our brotherhood that is acting. You know already that it is not the benign among men, the spiritual leaders of the world that are acting. And you know that it is not even the action of the benign politicians themselves who would see good come about to mankind, but rather it is the commercial, selfish interests of the world, who also at times are caught up in justification of their techniques by the doctrine of Malthus, who desired to see mankind aware of the fact that the day could come when they would literally price themselves out of the market, finding not enough ground upon which to grow food to feed the populations of a burgeoning world. Let me call to your attention then that which your beloved El Morya has declared in his encyclical, warning mankind against the doctrines of Malthus and bringing to mankind's attention that Almighty God has the power through the great influx of souls to bring about balance in the world's affairs. In these latter days, it is understandable that mankind should actually harbor more upon the planet, seeing productive machinery is now available to harvest the crops, and seeing that much of the land that is tillable is not yet even planted, precious ones. Therefore I call to your attention that it is not man that ought to regulate these matters, but it is God in his infinite wisdom. Yet we do not say that individuals ought to exercise some form of prudence and control in the carrying out of their family aims. Certainly this is wholly within the domain of cosmic reason. After all, precious ones, you ought not to bring forth more than you are able to care for and express your love for. This, of course, is a fact. Yet I call to your attention that it is not a problem of national responsibility so much as it is a problem of personal responsibility, wherein each family and family unit ought to make determination as to what they desire to do. And yet the power of God has often brought forth at a specific moment in the world's evolution some great soul destined to become for all mankind a great light upon the planetary body. And therefore the people who sat in darkness saw a great light, and the light manifested upon the planet and raised mankind a step higher in their own cosmic mark of achievement. As I am speaking to you today, I am aware of how the mankind of earth look up, especially those who have faith in God, to a higher power to raise them out of mortal density and into the domain of their freedom. Let me call to your attention, O mankind of earth, that our hearts are filled to overflowing with a desire to do just that. But we want you to understand that the part you play in opening the door to the higher consciousness, to divine grace, to light, to strength, to divine reason is very great. You exercise the power of unlocking the door to the heart of your being. You exercise the power of opening that door and bidding us welcome by your right attitudes that are in some way akin to our own. If you will model yourselves after the outer world and its fashion thereof, how can you be receptive to the tenderness of our heart and the strength of our mind and fervor? You see, beloved ones, the great ascended masters of the great white brotherhood are very strong and rugged. They are very powerful, far beyond mankind's understanding or comprehension of them. Therefore, when you model yourselves after the great ascended masters, you must understand that the doorway into your world will cause a flow of spiritual energy to come there into the focus of your own heart flame in order to raise your concepts into ascended master concepts, in order to raise your heart's energy to the level of ascended master concepts and radiation, in order to raise you, precious ones, in every way out of the human and into the divine. If you then do not utilize the inflowing energy in a good and proper manner, you may find that you are overburdened with a tremendous amount of energy, which can then manifest in human channels unless you shall take upon yourselves the responsibility of creating right action by your thoughts and feelings, so that you do profit by the grace and blessings which we give unto you from day to day. These words may seem simple, but in practice they require the very diligence of your soul. To open the door to others to come to America, to emigrate here, may seem simple, precious ones, but the opportunity must be made by them that they may profit by the gifts and graces of life which are given them here. For after all, precious ones, multitudes of people who already enjoy the privileges of America are not aware of how they can receive and derive the fullness of those blessings that are already here. They do not utilize 1/10 of the graces and gifts that are given unto them personally. They do not take advantage of the wonders of this land of opportunity. You call it in song a land of hope and a land of glory, and I would to God that it were so. But I say unto you all, there are too many forces at work today that seek to stultify this opportunity, that seek to bind men where they stand and sit, that seek to cause people to feel the pall of the descending clouds and shadows of wrong thought and feeling, so that they will be so laboring against seeming insurmountable obstacles as to make little progress in one embodiment. I tell you, precious ones, the violet transmuting flame can dispel this pall, not only for yourselves, but for others. And as this messenger said the other day, they are beginning to feel the blade, And I tell you, precious ones, that mankind today are the benefactors of the violet flame that has been invoked now for many a year over America. And truly, the actual cutting free action of the swords of blue flame and the swords of the violet flame angels is active in America and the world. And although the world seems to have the power, and although the world seems to have the glory, and although the world has the media of raising mankind's concepts into the matrices which they desire to create, I would point out to you that even without the benefit of these outer conditions, we have already, through the power of the Spirit of life, caused mankind again and again to feel the intense action of liberty, the intense action of freedom. And I tell you, we are not about to cease. We will continue to intensify among mankind the action of cosmic liberty until they can no longer resist the power that we will unleash. And I will not this day permit mankind to continue as they were, but I am determined to step up the action of liberty so that those immigrants who shall come to America under the new provisions of the bill which has been made available to the world will also feel the power of liberty as it pulsates around my statue in New York Harbor. I am instructing then the angels of record to draw from the great causal body of the earth planet, from the power of Helios and Vesta, as they themselves have consented, a radiation 100 times that which has ever been anchored in the Statue of Liberty before, so that when men come in view of that statue, they will feel the penetrating flame of my liberty in action, welcoming them to these shores and blessing this earth from pole to pole with a great transcendent possibility of infinite liberty. And infinite liberty is that which I am invoking. Finite liberty is only the license to do that which the mind, through its own sense of inward variety and exterior variety, does choose to invoke and to manifest. What we are concerned with is the manifestation of permanent liberty, which is infinite liberty, guiding and guarding mankind below in all that they say and do, so that they become karma-free beings, functioning in the domain of the great law. Won't you please be seated? As I am expounding to you this morning, I would like to call to your attention that the law of liberty is the law of life, the law of God, the law of immortality, and mankind often, by reason of karma-making situations, continue to violate the law, and the law of love returns to themselves the full-scale violation which they have created for redemption, rather than lay it at the feet of those other individuals who are not guilty of it. This is justice in action, returning full circle to man that which he sends out. But you must examine both sides of the coin, for not only do acts of evil return to mankind for redemption, but acts of good. All that men do and think of good is also instantly returned to them for redemption. Precious ones, some may take exception to my use of the word instantly. Well, I would like to call to your attention that whether or not the manifestation occurs so that it is visible and tangible to your eyes, that there is an instantaneous action of record made, whereby the moment you send out a wrong thought, it is etched in your consciousness somewhere for redemption. And the moment you send out a good thought, it is etched there instantly for redemption. Whether or not the manifestation of that energy actually takes place at that instant in your own time sequence is not so important. The fact that is important is that the recording is made, and therefore the law is a law of love. And every individual who loves the law of love will understand that justice is a very important manifestation thereof. For if it were not for the scales of justice, I assure you that mankind would continue to miscreate and miscreate again and again, as life has proven they do. And it is only when individuals find the halter of life is drawing them up and pulling them back and retaining them and restraining them that they finally come to that awareness that they ought to pay some regard to the law. How then is it that I say the law is the law of love? Well, precious ones, when the will of God is fulfilled by this law, then it becomes love in action. And the law is therefore the fullness of love. It is the love that causes this beautiful verdant sphere upon which you live to travel round the sun in its appointed rounds, that produces the perfection of the seasons, the mellowness of the harvest, the mellowness of men's hearts, the mellowness of the golden beams of sun light pouring forth from beloved Helios and Vesta's heart. It is, precious ones, reality in action. The law is reality. It is very real, and that which mankind manifests of human imperfection is very unreal and transitory. How could it be, precious ones, that we should permit, that God should permit, that even you should permit the continual action of human discord and human despair? Would it not be a most hopeless situation, precious ones, if mankind were to continually manifest imperfection and have no hope to escape from their present condition? I think it would be a frightful condition indeed, and I suppose that we ourselves could support suicide in such a case. You see, precious ones, mankind would feel quite justified in literally jumping off of a high building if they knew that there was no opportunity whatsoever for them to escape from the situations which they sometimes find themselves in. But you see, precious ones, this is not true, for they are not really in these situations, but it seems so to them at a given time when darkness clouds their mind and the suicide entity creates in them a feeling that is appalling indeed, a frightful feeling whereby their ego itself seems already extinguished and they feel they cannot face the situations which they must. Yet, beloved ones, I call to your attention that we must prevent these individuals wherever possible from doing these things that cause them to make a quick exit from the stage of life. We must continually support the powers of light that dispel the suicide entity from the force field of such individuals, so that they will have full opportunity to face the problems that bring them such despair and understand the meaning of the law and the great power of heaven that the law brings forth upon earth as opportunity, as grace, as purity, as love, as beneficence, as the sun of God's care for man. As the sun of God's care for man. As the sunlight of God's care for man. Do you know the care of the heart of God for you, each one? Do you know the careful activity of the law of your being? Do you know the tenderness with which the elemental of your body received the first pristine image, the divine prototype from the heart of God? Do you know how that all of the very best of life was put in manifestation upon you, so that you might manifest in your reflected image the great purity of the higher realms? Oh, precious ones, the fact that distortions have occurred, the fact that you are not now all that you once were, does not mean that you shall not immigrate to the higher shores, to that heaven of life, where you are victorious, and where you shall also serve the evolutions of other planets and systems of worlds, where you shall partake of the great cosmic councils, being gifted then with supreme wisdom, being given that wondrous maturity which is the maturity of God, the maturation of the flame of life within you, whereby understanding and grace function in the domain of right action. You could not then err, for to err is indeed human, but to practice truth is divine. Be practitioners of truth then, here and now. Uphold the torch of your own cosmic liberty. Be devotees of the great white brotherhood. Be devotees of the ascended masters. Be devotees of the will of God. Be devotees of almighty light and love. Be devotees of cosmic purity. Be devotees of strength and joy and freedom and all that the law gives to man. And be devotees above all of love, for it is love divine that pulsates in this heart of mine. It is love divine that flashes from this flame on high. It is love divine that is the torch I hold. It is love divine behind this door of gold. Oh, lift your lamp, your torch, the light within your heart, and see the spark that stops the manifest of the dark, and is the light revealed, the light God sealed, the light ne'er dimming, but e'er winning the crown celestial. O man, be free and see this boon of immortality, opportunity, consecration, emulation, grace, perfection, all that is, that shall be, all that light makes free. I am in all. I am now call, and let them hear that call and see the treasures of eternity, to be, to be, to free, to be. I thank you. Most gracious and holy Mother, co-serving with me in the administration of the rising radiance of this season, from Darjeeling we come to let mankind feel the Father-Mother ray of compassion in the will of God, which has manifested throughout the pageant of nature. Have you thought, gracious ones, of the mighty tide of goodwill which God has released in all of the outer realm of creation? Have you thought of the concentrated foci of goodwill that is within thy own being, thy outer form, the physical part of yourself? Have you considered then how that holy grace has found you a place in the world of form, whereby you gaze out upon the mysteries of creation for opportunity's sweet sake, and abide and dwell in the realm of purity and compassion as your hearts adore God and as your gratitude mounts up on eagle wings? We here differ not from you, for unless a manifestation of God be the allness of God, in which case it is excluded from being just one part, it must then pay adoration to some manifestation of the one deity that has excelled the lesser manifestation, whether it be in the ascended or unascended realm. For as has been well spoken in previous days, one star differeth from another star in glory, so man must comprehend today that through divine effort evoked in the plane of individuality, man may either remain in mediocrity or find the excellent way that leads through the gate beautiful into the temple of goodwill, where the pearly magnificence of the rainbow intent of God manifests through the seven color rays. You see, precious ones, the idea of the pearly gates is not so strange after all, but like many other statement of mankind, is not purely mythology, but has its root in reality. Therefore, the mother of pearl concept that takes into account the purity of God as the essential background for the soul, and recognize that the coloring of the rays is in the foreground, whereby individuals choose to lend their being and selfhood for the purposes of the variegated motifs of the Father's intent, is all a part of one vast drama of unfoldment, whereby the foreground and the foregoing and the background and that which has been are all moving forward into that realm of that which shall be, as this messenger has told you this blessed morn. And therefore you must comprehend with a higher way all that the Darjeeling Council would direct into the chalice of your attention. Our chelas are indeed in the vanguard of life's radiance when they abide in holy will and holy will's keeping. When they become enmeshed in the shadows of the world, they differ not in aspect from all mankind, including those who walk the broad way. Therefore I think that as you contemplate the meaning of our words, you will realize how that again and again it is necessary for men to summon not only forgiveness for themselves and their fellow men, but givingness for themselves and their fellow men. The givingness of high adulation for the principle of life which God has placed within the chalice of the heart itself. Adulation for the purposes, praise and glory for the intent and the carrying out of that intent in a daily walk and a daily holding in thought and feeling of the God concepts of your Father and mine. We at the Darjeeling Council table do not differ with one another. We do not have those clashes of will which sometimes occur in your realm, for the simple fact, blessed ones, that we are all able to see in the coloring of our auras the rise of thought before it becomes utterance and is communicated. Therefore, because we can behold in one another the rise of thought, we can also perceive it in ourselves, and we would instantly stop the action of that which is not like unto heaven if it could find any possibility of manifestation in our realm. Therefore it does not manifest in the ascended Master's realm, for we do not permit it. You see, precious ones, some are aware of the fact that as we descend into the human level, as it were below the clouds of glory, trailing the radiance of ourselves, we find sometimes that just as the dust of the desert can come upon the robe of a nomadic wanderer, so even the ascended masters would find an overlay of human residue upon their garments of glory. Yet the garments of glory are of such a quality and nature of fire substance as to transmute on the instant of manifestation that which places itself there. There is, of course, some feeling of discomfort, if you could call it that, to those of us who are ascended when we come into an octave below our own level and find individuals are discordant or manifesting some quality which is particularly insidious. Therefore it is natural that we should be repelled by qualities which are not God-like, and those who would court our favor and association would do well to bear in mind that we are drawn unto mankind by the vibratory action of wholesomeness, by the vibratory action of pure thoughts, by the vibratory action of divine love free from calumny or self-glorification, that we are drawn to individuals by humility, by determination and diligence, that we are drawn to individuals through an expression of their love for God and for the image which He has created for them as His gift of life to them. Therefore, you see, precious ones, if you would have a more than ordinary association with us, it comes down to this simple formula of reducing yourself to the lowest quantity of a human being and raising yourself to the highest quantity of a divine image. This image is the concept God holds for you, and completely refutes the image which mankind at times hold for one another, saying this individual expresses thus and thus, whereas we see only mankind as expressing the qualities of light and the perfection of light. Now it is absolutely true that several years ago, in drawing together certain life streams for another organization and endeavor, we did choose certain individuals who were not compatible or suited with one another, simply because we were drawing upon the immaculate image of that individual and the other individual. In other words, in both cases and in all cases, we were gazing upon the perfection of the immaculate concept for those individuals, and we perceived in their causal body the most wonderful, harmonious compatibility, and we drew them together, at which time a clash of wills occurred and a clash of being which brought some downfall of a house. You see then, precious ones, through that experience we later come to realize from our octave that it was necessary for us to take some assessment at least of the qualities manifesting below in order to assure that this would not be repeated in future endeavors to which we should lend our support and firm confidence. This we have done in this endeavor, and have tried in most cases to draw together those individuals who possess the greatest possibility of harmoniously achieving the ascended Master's purposes before men. Occasionally because of the dearth upon mankind of those qualified for these purposes, we have caused some individual to come together with our group where this compatibility has not always manifested. Yet opportunity in such cases has been given to the one that we have received. For if that individual then, recognizing the opportunity which is theirs, will take themselves firmly in hand and carry out the ascended Master's ideals, they will find a more than ordinary acceleration of cosmic purpose in their world, and the advancement which they will thereby make will be considerably greater than if they had refrained from association with the opportunity which we had provided for them. Therefore, there are times when, although we do hold an immaculate concept for all, we gaze upon mankind from the outer level in order to bring together those of like mind for a sublime purpose. There are times when we choose to wink at some particular human foible in order to give opportunity to one or more individuals, or because there are not too many individuals ready for a specific advancement at a time when we require some necessary provision of service to our cause. Therefore, I have shed a little light, I hope, this morning on some of the cosmic reasons involved in our endeavors that seek to provide mankind a means to further their advancement in the kingdom of God through outer service to an activity such as the Summit Lighthouse. Beloved ones, the Darjeeling Council tables have before them today many weighty matters. Some of these are concerning the elementals in South America. Others are concerning the elementals of various parts of Alaska. You see, precious ones, Alaska itself, in some of the reaches of it, has been occupied by Eskimos and those of races not as advanced as others upon the North American continent. These individuals have often lived on a very strange diet for many generations, and therefore certain conditions have been set up in their higher mental body, and certain conditions have been set up in their actual consciousness. You see, precious ones, the higher mental body is determined to conquer the outer consciousness of mankind and bring each race to its highest expression of Christ's good. And therefore, it is necessary at times to change and relocate individuals from one part of the earth to another in order to bring them into contact with a new possibility, furthering then the kingdom of God upon earth, and by an exchange of citizenry, causing individuals to render to elemental life some specific service which will help the entire planetary body. Therefore, many individuals in the past have migrated to Alaska and to certain parts of the far north, where they have added certain elements of their being to the colonies already established in those regions. Thereby certain good has been accomplished which we understand and realize that all will not thoroughly understand, but all may comprehend in part. I would like to call to your attention that the governing of the evolutions of this planet is no small task, nor is it easy in any respect even from the ascended realm. The constant challenges that must be met are indeed almost enough to tax an ascended being, and I hope that you will recognize that this is so. And tranquility then is so urgently needed among those down below, so that no unnecessary problem requiring our attention be affected by our chelas upon the planetary body. We have enough to handle, precious ones, from the standpoint of giving our energies toward the freeing of mankind without having unnecessary disturbances created whereby certain shadowed substances attempt to enclose an endeavor which we have for some time given our all to. We pray then that you will recognize that in this moment of world peril, when we seek to relocate the heart center of this endeavor for a cosmic purpose and reason, that all of you will pull together in pioneering our achievement for a worthy purpose, and will understand that the glory that will be accomplished for America will be a raising action symbolized in the very wings of America herself. This is our intent. This is the intent of our office. Those who are with me at the council table include your own beloved Saint Germain, Lord Maitreya, beloved Mother Mary, the Goddess of Liberty, and your beloved K-17. We have had an emissary that has arrived from the planet Venus. This emissary comes to us directly representing Sanat Kumara. Lord Gautama has sent a representative to this specific council meeting, himself remaining in Shambhala for the protection of the planet itself at this moment. And there is a specific release of what we call the dove of peace, the dove of white peace, from the heart of the Lord Mahachohan. Now this could be said, the white dove of peace, but I have chosen to say it as we say it, and therefore I hope that you will remember that there is a concept embodied here that pertains to the purity and the purifying of the planetary body itself in a spiritual sense. For spiritual wickedness in high places is that energy which comes about through individuals dedicated to spiritual purposes who begin to function in contradiction to one another. In other words, precious ones, one spiritual endeavor, calling upon Almighty God and the Ascended Masters, begins to draw forth energy from on high and then direct that energy with misqualified substance of anger or criticism against another spiritual organization when both are connected with us. This causes some confusion, precious ones, to mankind in a clash of energies, and is indeed spiritual wickedness in high places. It also permits an inflow and infiltration of sinister substance, which can disturb the planetary body and disturb the function of the councils in emancipating mankind and giving them their complete freedom for which they call. I have this day tried to shed some light on various subjects that you might find freedom through the power of love, for the power of love is very great when it is rightly understood. But men must understand that love does not mean that they need to or ought to or are required to have love or feelings of love for qualities which are not godly or godlike. Individuals themselves actually clash within themselves. They manifest on one hand feelings of God gratitude and divine love, on the other hand feelings of frustration and hostility toward one another. You must recognize then that the individuals must be loved and the good feelings which they emanate. The evil feelings, the frustrations, the wrong vibrations, which are no part of their reality, are not to be loved, and if exhibited by mankind, are to be shunned, and not taken in through the wanton vibration of human sympathy, which often takes people by the hand, so that because they love the individual, or are in sympathy with the individual, they sometimes will accept the vibration of wrongly qualified substance from the individual because they have a feeling of sorrow or pity for them. This is a human weakness that must be guarded against. And when individuals will understand that their true allegiance is to their own mighty I Am Presence, they will understand how they can, through cooperative effort, make the task of the Darjeeling Council and all the councils of the Great White Brotherhood of greater efficacy in establishing our purposes among mankind. So long as individuals do, through ignorance, add their own humanly created impediments to the impediments of the world already created, it causes some frustration of our purposes, although I must admit we have not submitted to any feelings of frustration, but have continued to pour out our energy and our faith and our strength to you, regardless of the manifestation of outer conditions. This we shall continue to do. I only hope that you shall wake up to the fact, when you are discordant, that you are adding to the weight of planetary effluvia. When you are harmonious, you are adding to the weight of harmony. And harmony is the quality which is most required upon the earth today, as it always has been since the foundation of the world. Through divine harmony and peace, more can be achieved in 1 minute than you can ever achieve in 10,000 years of confusion and disorder, even though mankind may desire peace and harmony during those periods of disorder and confusion. Therefore, I hope that you will see how important it is to establish Mother Mary's concepts of freedom for the Christ image in yourselves, and thus you will be aiding and abetting the purposes of heaven. And I think this is a great deal better than just betting on your chances. I thank you. Gracious one of great light, as I speak to you today, I do so from the great crystal fire mist fall. Around me as I speak, the elements are combining the wonders of divine beauty. For the falls, composed of water and fire substance, combines with the mist of atmosphere and a blend of rainbow color. The great white light of the Christ is emanating forth from my being within this falls as it descends to the planetary body to convey the substance of God's life and light and love. The infinite descent is for the infinite rays, and you, in what has been termed the frail bark of being, are conveyed as a canoe upon the waters of the moving tide of life, not in your case, O mankind, to come to a falls of destruction, over whose brink and precipice you should be dashed, but to a upward flowing stream, which defies the forces of gravity, and is not a falls, but a raise of the water substance, of the fire mist, of the atmosphere, and of the transmuted substance of the earth, as fruit and flower, immortally lovely and beautiful in the Father's realm. I come then today to convey a rod of power to those weary ones who would lean upon the divine staff. You'll recall in memory how that of old to the patriarch Abram and others did come holy men carrying in hand a staff, how that at various times the staff was used to touch the substance of that which mankind offered unto these great ones, ascended beings and members of the hierarchy, representing the very presence of God upon earth. When the staff did touch the substance, there was a living flame that burst forth as the sacred fire received the gifts of men's hearts. Today, precious ones, in myriad manifestation, the wonders of God continue to blossom and appear. Yet those who are dull of hearing, those who are weary of seeing, are not content either with the outer display of the world's wisdom, or, in many cases, with those spiritual morsels that fall from the table of God, according to the deserts of those individuals who pursue the spiritual path with but a half diligence. And now, as I speak to you, I am reminded of those upon whom the gods can lean, those stalwart and staunch ones who, recognizing themselves as a part of the universe, determined to be pillars for the hand of God, not that the Father requires it, but because the manifestation must ever be subservient to the will of God if it would acknowledge and receive the full benefit of His grace to bestow the riches of His abundance upon the soul of man. For only in emulation of the great givingness of God can men be God-like, and only by doing as the Father does can mankind be as the Father is. And those who cast themselves as bread upon the waters will find the divine abundance multiplied unto them, as God Himself shares the abundance, not of but a moment, but of forever, with that wondrous individuality unfolding within man that comes into a spirit of harmonium with that higher revelation as it appears. And now, precious ones, I confide in you that many do from time to time have a vestige of revelation given unto them, which seemeth not to them to be real, for they are so accustomed to mortal foibles and to mortal ideas and to the crystallized concepts of human reason, that when the dawn of God's love actually manifests for them, they find difficulty in accepting that it is His grace that leadeth them beside the still waters, that restoreth their soul, that would lift them up to the untrammeled heights of His purity. I am come then today to renew the ancient covenant. I am come then today to renew the covenant of the holy breath. I am come then today to remind you that your life is God, and because it is the substance of His substance, the breath of His breath, it is the life which we all share. It is the life of His abundance, and it is equally yours as you take the proffered gift in hand and direct that holy energy which that life bestows in an appropriate manner as befits the kingdom of God. Today, mankind, having a multifaceted confusion in manifestation, are often troubled of heart. And when the Christ appears with His balm of comfort, saying, "Peace, be still, fear not, my children, it is I, be of good cheer," it seems to them as though it is but a sound fading away in the corridors of memory, and it is as though it did not happen. But to those of us imbued with the fire of the Holy Spirit, to those of us who day to day come face to face with Him, whose hair is like white wool and whose eyes are like a flame of fire. This is no myth or mystery. It is the ever-present, omnipresent revelation. It is the comfort of sitting down at the Father's table on the right hand of God and sharing that reality which He would bestow upon every one whom He hath made. God would quicken then in all mankind, through the power of holy stimuli, that internal sense of rightness, that internal sense of being, which relates to the descending power of the sacred fire from on high. The Holy Spirit shall imbue men with power from on high. The Holy Spirit has involved men in the intricacies of that power through the first release of the outer breath received from the womb of your earthly parent, your mother. Now then, precious ones, comes the time when ye must be born again, born not only of water, which also signifies the water element, but born of the fire. You have heard it said that the earth should stand trial by water and by fire. Know then that these old symbologies, rooted in the ancient traditions, are also pure truth. For the earth did stand of old, both in the water and out of the water, and the voice of God did divide the water that is in the world below from the water that is above. And so the holy energies of the water creation of God here below have their correspondent power in the great sacred Elohim before the heart of God. They embody the feeling, the great God feeling and realization. But the fire, precious ones, is actually the sacred Fohat, and this is imbued with the divine intelligence. For the fire is intelligent, and it charges into every atom and cell of being the proper outworking and outpicturing of the life which God desires to see manifest. But unfortunately for mankind, the outer workings of the fire have functioned partially, and mankind has interspersed and imposed his will upon the fire itself, so that the body of man reflects the densities of mortal reason and feeling. But the great fire of God that would bestow the new birth upon man must bestow it upon the soul and upon the consciousness. By the infiring of the presence of God, the holy intelligence controls the emotions, and by the controlled emotions and divine intellect, there is not only an intelling, but an infeeling of the wonderful gifts of heaven's being and consciousness. Precious ones, being is consciousness, and consciousness flows in two directions, into matrices of thought and into matrices of feeling. The water is intended at times to put out the fire, and the fire is intended at times to consume even the water. Now man do not, with outer consciousness of sense, understand this, but with the inward sense of life from the divine side, they are able to see how that the divine fire, through its white-hot heat of fervor, is able to also consume the water element, burning the hydrogen and the oxygen, precious ones, which are gases, and separating them and consuming them. You must understand then that the divine pneuma, the divine energy, the divine spirit, the divine radiation that comes in the holy breath is a separate quality from that which manifests in the atmosphere. For the atmosphere has a part of the sacred fire, but not all. And when the allness is accomplished, that which is standing in the water and out of the water unites, and once again the water from above joins that which is below, and the fire from above joins that which is below. And thus there is made out of two hemispheres one sphere, and one great concept, whereby heaven and earth are united in the kingdom of God. The separation had to occur, precious ones, in order to assure the perpetuation of divine ideals and the outflow of God magnificence from on high. If mankind should have permeated heaven with the discord which they have expressed upon earth, today you would not have the great fortress citadel of life in manifestation on high. You would not be able to draw upon the great powers of light from on high, for that which is on high would not be high, but low, and that which is low would not be high. You see, precious ones, in the mysteries of God, simple arraignments can be made, whereby there is conveyed to the mind of man certain concepts in the simplicity of childlike conference. For we today are holding a conference with your being, and there is conveyed to you at this moment certain inner intelligence, or an intelling and an inflowing of the great mastery of the divine world into your world here below. It is not necessary that all that is released should be understood at one given moment. Assimilation and the assimilative process requires time, and thus the great flow of the tides of life, the tides of time, move on, and the frail bark of man's being is borne toward its divine fulfillment. The lilies of the valley grow along the banks of this flowing stream, and the water lilies surround the frail bark of your being, releasing their fragrance, the fragrance of the mystic east that is within, the Eden of being, the pure pleasure of knowing God as He is. You see, O mankind, your own thoughts and feelings have intervened as a screen before the manifest release of love from the heart of God, so that often you have been unable to see the pure power which God has released and the great gifts of His love. Now I am come today to raise that veil, to bring you into a greater inner awareness of that natural expression of divine sonship, where you can feel, as Jesus did, your cosmic unity with God, where you can feel the great Father presence in the fire crystal mist as He trembles the ethers with His voice from on high, saying to each of thee, "Thou art my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." The voice of God speaking unto the individual brings the individual into consonance with being, and being and seeing become one, and the divine sense is opened, and men see God as He is. Face to face in that knowing, there is no conflict then with human ideation and divine reality, but only the revelation of the voice of God speaking to the naked soul, which stands before God and is witness to His glory and majesty. So I come, and so I release. So I am, and so you are. So you are, and so you shall be. For transcendence is the order of the day. Let the earth tremble and shake. Let mankind's karma come upon them suddenly, as a thief in the night. I tell you, the way of escape is the divine citadel. And I know that as you shall understand this in your hearts and in your beings, and shall fulfill your destiny as God sees it, you shall regret not the step that was taken before the lords of opportunity, but you shall say, "O God, who fulfills my being, make it available unto those of lesser evolution. Let them not be lost." And you shall understand the prayer of the Christ of old. "Father, I thank Thee for those which Thou hast given unto me. They are the sheep of thy pasture that were called of thy heart. I thank thee that none of them is lost, save the son of perdition, that the scripture be fulfilled. I pray not only for them, but I pray also for the whole world. And so the sense of God's love is enhanced by the Holy Spirit this day as you outreach as God into His kingdom to love His little ones as He does. As you are the recipients of His grace, so you are donors of His grace. I greet you with the purity of the Holy Spirit, and I know that the comfort I bring shall be with you always, even unto the end of this age, which is at hand. I thank you